Okay, we're gonna do make the box thing that we did in class the other day. So the first thing I'm gonna do for this is I'm going to start setting my parameters. So I'm just gonna do S and then parameters, so P-A-R-A, and change parameters. I'm just gonna add one that says thickness, and that's just going to be the thickness of the material we're going to use. So we'll say it's going to be 0.5 in this case. And okay. And then for this one, what we'll do is we'll do width, and that's going to be like the actual box width. And then we can put that as like 12. It'll be 12 inches. And okay, and okay. And so what we're going to do is try and build this entire box using pretty much only parameters. So the first thing I'm going to do is right-click, new component. I'm going to name that bottom. It's going to be the bottom of the box. Press enter. I'm going to put a sketch on the top plane. And since I want my piece to be kind of centered around the origin, I'm going to do a center point rectangle. So S for search, and then center for center point rectangle. It's going to be, let's see, let's say we want it to be width. So what was that, 12 inches? It's going to be 12 inches wide. And then this, as yet, is undefined. But what I'm going to do is, because I want it half the length of the width, so I'm just going to press escape and then define this edge. I'm just going to say 0.5 times this. So now we have, this is going to be 6 inches driven, and this is 12 inches down here. And so the next thing I'm going to do, I don't know why this is here. Let me see if I do view, reset default layout, let move it, there it goes. Okay, I'm going to put a little tab on the inside of this box for each side. So one can just go here. One is going to go here. And then one is here. And then finally down here, up, over, and I hate when it does that, but we'll say down there, because I want all these to be perpendicular. So I'm going to start lining these up. I know that I want this one and this one to be equal, and I want this one and this one to be equal. And then I want all the insides to be the same, so this one and this one, this one and this one, and this one and this one, and then I can't do this one to this one because then it will be overdefined and kind of go in a big circle. So now from here, escape again to get off that. I'm going to do D, and then that's going to be defined as thickness, because that's going to be the thickness of my material. Again, I do it this way because that way if I change my plywood or anything else like that, and instead of actually being ½ inch, it's like 0.472, I'm able to fix that accordingly. So the next thing I want to do to start lining everything up is go off the center for everything. There's a bunch of different ways I can do this. Easiest way that I found that is like visually the least obtrusive is just to do S and then point, and then just put a point in the center of all these. So I just hover over the middle until that triangle pops up, and then I know it's the middle. So put it on the midpoint, midpoint, midpoint. And then I can just make these all relative to the center, horizontally and vertically, and they'll just end up centered on themselves. And then the next thing I want to do is go define width on these and then height on these, which I guess is kind of width in a way. But what I'm going to do is just, this is going to be half of this, and this is going to be half of this. So I'll say D, that is going to be 0.5 times that, and then this is going to be 0.5 times that. And you'll notice that, like, as of right now, every dimension on here is driven. So there's no single dimension that I've kind of said what it is. Even this original one that I started with, that everything else is kind of driven off of except for these widths. This is driven off of a parameter. So if I change one parameter, it will change this entire sketch. So once I'm ready, I'm going to say, okay, I'm going to do E for extrude, and then I'm going to do thickness, because again, it's the thickness of my material, and I'm good to go. So now my bottom is in place. It's centered on the origin. I have all my planes exactly where I want them. I'm going to right click and I'm going to ground it because I don't want it to move anywhere. Once I ground it, you'll notice that I get that little red pin next to it, which means I'm good to go. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put a side on it. So I'm going to put the side that goes here. I'm going to right click, new component. I'm going to say front side, or I'll do like long side. That would be easier. Long side, because then I'll know which one it is later. Sketch, I'm going to sketch on this inside, not on this outside, but on this inside plane. And that way when I extrude it, it's going to come out to this point. So I can sketch there. And what I want to do is I like to put this at a little bit of an angle so I can kind of see what I'm doing. I'm going to project this line across here, and then it drops down, and then across here, and then it goes up, and then it goes across. And I'm good there. And then what I'm going to do is project this little point right here and this little point right here, because there's going to be a side of that box that's going to kind of go in. So I'm going to keep those on there. So I have this pretty much ready. I'm going to turn the bottom off for now because it's going to make it a little bit easier for me to see. I can go, I just pressed L for line, and then I'm going to go up, and then in, then up, and then out, and then up, and then over, and then down, and then over, and then up, and then over, and then down, and then in, and then down, and then out, and then eventually I want to end up right there. So I'm just going to put it there, and then I'm going to add a perpendicular thing to it. You'll see that a lot of these joints are kind of like in weird places. Like this one is like saying this line is related to this line. And what I like to do really when I do this is like delete all these weird ones, because they just end up doing weird stuff later. And so I like to define them myself. So everything that's not in a corner where I want it to be, I'm just going to delete. So I'm just going to grab all these and say I don't want you there. And then I'm going to go back through with perpendicular, and I'm going to actually start defining the ones that I do want. So like that one I want, obviously that one I want. I do want all these to be perpendicular. I just want to make sure that I am the one in control of what they're perpendicular to. So I should get to the end, and then when I try and do this last one, it should overdefine, and it does, which means I'm in the right spot. So now I'm going to start bringing everything into play and start defining it. So I know that I want this to be lined up with this point, because again, if we turn that on, that point is the inside of that face right here. So when we put on a face right here, it's going to line up with it. So I can just do horizontal, vertical to there, and then same thing over here. And then I want these to line up. So I can just do equal, and then the top to the bottom, and then top to the bottom. And then I want this to be equal here, so this and here. Actually, I don't want that one to be equal, and I'll show you why in a minute. But I do want these ones up here to be equal. This one, this one. And the reason why is because I want this to be centered on the side, and the center goes to the bottom, so this is actually going to end up being less than this one is, because it makes up for this little spot down here. So what we'll do next is start to kind of keep defining stuff across. I want this little finger joint to be the same as this one. And I want it to be driven off of the original one. Also, I need to define this top one down here, or up here. So I need a point off the bottom I can define. So I'm going to do P, and then right there I'll get that point. And then I'm going to go back to this first one, and I'm going to turn on my sketch. And then I'm going to right-click my sketch, and I'm going to say Show Dimensions. And now you can see I can actually look at what these are, and I can reference them for later. So if I go D, I go from this point here to this point here. Instead of typing in something, I can just click on this dimension here. And then same thing for this one here, I can go that. And then instead of typing it in, I can reference this one here. And now they start to all be kind of the same. You'll notice that we're a little bit off kilter now because we want to make this equal to this. And this is going to be the thickness down here. So if we wanted to, we can define this as thickness, or we can reference this or anything else. It's going to do thickness because it's already a driven dimension and it's easy to see. This is still needs to be defined this way, and this needs to be defined this way. So what I want to do here is I want this to be in the center from here to here. And so the easiest thing, not the easiest thing necessarily, but one thing that I can do is put D here from this point to this point across, and then I can do a couple things. One, I can just say half of this because this is half of this. Two, if I really wanted to go complex, I could say I want this dimension. We'll put this in parentheses minus this dimension divided by 2. Again, this is a more complex way of writing it, but just to kind of show you what you're capable of doing here. And then it's going to automatically do the same thing on the other side because everything was informed by that side. Oh, except for this bottom one, which we will make equal to this one here. And then this we can just define off of this. So again, horizontal, vertical, put it right there, and now this whole side is defined. So I can do a couple things now. When I extrude this, I can grab everything, and I can either do distance, and I can do to object, and then just reference this bottom face down here. Or if I wanted to, I could just do distance and then just do thickness, which again I will. So once we're here, I can go up to the top. I'm going to turn off that sketch because I don't need it anymore. Now that we have this second piece in, I want to join it immediately. So I'm going to press J for join. You'll notice that this one grays out, and this is grayed out because it is grounded, which means it cannot move. And the first one we grab is always going to move to the second one we grab. So this one cannot move, so it is therefore grayed out. I'm going to grab the edge that's already touching, and I'm just going to grab the one in the center, and then grab the bottom edge that it's already touching, click and click. It is spinning around, it's on revolute. I'm going to go to rigid, which is what I want, and I'm good to go. And then now I need one for the other side, so I'm going to click alongside. I can either go copy here, or I can do a Control C, and then I can just do Control V and move it over a little bit so I can see it. I'm going to go back to the bottom, and then you'll see I want this inside edge to touch this edge, not this outside edge, not this top edge. This bottom inside edge and this one here, so J. And from right here to right here, and we are good. So the next thing I want to do is do this, do the short side. So if I go over here, I right-click, new component, and I'm going to call it short side. And I can create sketch, and again, I'm going to want to go on the inside here, not the outside, but the inside. Press OK. You can start to see kind of exactly what's going on, exactly what I can already start to what's the word? Project. So P for project, and then I'm just going to follow the line that that piece is actually going to go in. So it's going to go on the inside here, then it's going to go out, then it's going to go down, and then it's going to go in, and then it's going to go down, and then it's going to go in, and then down and across and up and over and up and over and up and over and up. And then we'll get these little inside ones just so we have them, and we're good to go here. And you can see that most of this piece is already done. Like 90% of it's already there. So all I need to do from here is line, over, down, over, up, over. And then I want to make that, delete that because it's reference off something else. I'm going to add a perpendicular join up here. And, oh, this is guiding off of this for some reason. It's not what we want. And then, there we go. So what I can do is make these equal here and here. Oh, it did it in the center, that's why. You can see that something needs to be perpendicular as well. So there we go. And then equal there. And then I can do to this point here and to this point here. And now I'm fully defined on every face with this, with 0 dimensions on the entire thing. So all I need to do now is E for extrude, click my planes, thickness again, good to go. I go back up to the top. I'm going to press J for joint. I'll notice that that grays out again. Hover over the center. Over there. That's good. Again, copy, paste. Just move it on down. J again. 1 and 2. So you'll notice that I'm almost totally done. And then now the only thing left to do is the top, which again should be totally defined for me. So I right click, new component, we call it top. And I'm going to create sketch. I'll just do it on this plane right here. And you'll see that this is already, everything is already done for me. So P for project, and then I'm just going to start following this around. So in, over, just in a big, I don't know, square, kind of rectangle thing. And I want to project all these because if I define them and then I decide later that something is wrong or off or this, that, or anything else, I have to do more work. And I don't want to. So, oops, I did that one. I didn't want to. Okay, and you'll notice, there we go. So E for extrude, grab this, thickness, perfect, to the top, and then I can just do joint on any of these on the side, but I'll just do this side right here because it's facing me. Rigid, and then I'm good. Now, if you'll notice, what I can do is if I say S, parameters, and then I actually decide I want the thickness of my material to be 0.75, and then I want the width of my box to actually be 18. You'll see, I press OK, and the entire thing will now change. So if we go here, I for inspect, we can see that now this is 0.75 thick. And if we go from here to here, this is now 18, which means when we go from here to here, it should be 9, and it's 9 right there. So everything is completely done in parameters, so that there's nothing I need to do to like actually modify any of my sketches in order to change the size of my box or the material I'm using. So thanks, bye.